Sanje Robert So Sanganje Chulan Soje Chonama Chanjo Pado Dane Shasu Chen Dage Chushin Jebe Sonam Lola Peshe Sanje Robert So Wala Samajana Gitadani Sanje Tanji Tendo Tojalana me bayanda bazobe sanji kumbaru be kene tobra shago te tobra shawi chedo tambe chero mo ci senya be kolon shanju ci semji se sembe gon sembre kyo
We must strive to accomplish complete enlightenment for the sake of liberating infinite, kind, mother sentient beings. It's for that reason we should cultivate the altruistic mind of enlightenment, and with that kind of motivation we call bodhicitta motivation, that we should all participate in this teaching.
당아란도 참말로 아니 예브라카위 단지 좀 밀리는 거지 더 아니 결과에 산지 때문에 버진 별 아니 라마너 버튼 비티 대바진 기 힘이 돼 감더 나를 참말로 다지 아니 가서 뜻이 최저도 말씀하시니 기 다외 되는 힘벌는 또 버지 시야도 깨지 뭐래.
As we reflect on our present life situations, if you will, we can see that we are very fortunate indeed to have this, what we call, fully endowed human form or precious human life, which is characterized by freedoms and enriching factors. And this kind of life is very rare to find, but we have found it this time. And because of this, we have also been very fortunate indeed to meet with the precious teachings of Buddha, we call Buddha Dharma. And we have also been very fortunate indeed to have come under the care and guidance of qualified spiritual masters of the greater vehicle Buddhism or Mahayana. The kind of masters who never mislead us, into following spirituality or to have spiritual development. So as we consider all these factors or conditions, if you will, then we can see that it's really very important for each of us to make a decision that we will make best use of this precious human life, and so that we are able to, fulfill a greater purpose of life, or as we would say, derive essence out of this precious human life. We are all, I think, participating in a general sense, Buddha's teachings, and within that we are following the teaching of greater vehicle Buddhism or Mahayana or Bodhisattva's way of life. And what is essential to this particular school of Buddhism, if you will, or tradition of Buddhism, is that our spiritual goal should be complete enlightenment, or what we call Buddhahood. In other words, that we take complete enlightened state as our ultimate spiritual goal, and we are striving for that with altruistic motivation to benefit all other sentient beings.
타베 공파지 토이팅 내가 산동 그랬어.
So if we feel that, well, that is too high a spiritual goal for myself, and I don't think I'm up to that level, or I don't think I can strive for that goal. But then the next level of spiritual goal that we could work for is what we call nirvana, or liberation from cyclic existence or samsara. So basically what we are trying to do here is that we as individuals do not want to suffer anymore in samsara or cyclic existence. We do not want to experience any kind of suffering in samsara, whether it's a general kind of suffering or it's the particular kind of suffering in the three unfortunate states of rebirth. So we want to put an end to suffering for good. With that as a goal, then we can work towards what we call liberation from samsara or nirvana from samsara. And now if we also feel that, well, that is still, kind of above my head, and I don't think I'm, really, up to that level, or to seek liberation as my goal. Now the last spiritual goal, so to speak, the last resort that's left for us is to see that through spirituality, through spiritual development or dharma development, that we do not have to be reborn in an unfortunate state in our next life. So that's the freedom from unfortunate states of rebirth. So at least that should be our spiritual goal in the minimum. And if we do that, then we are fulfilling, as we would say, certain essence by making use of this life. So basically what I've tried to explain now is that there are different levels of essence that we could strive for, that we can fulfill. So the highest one would be to accomplish complete enlightened state for the benefit of all sentient beings. But if you think that that's a little too high, well, the next level would be nirvana, or liberation from samsara or cyclic existence. But if that is still, we feel like, well, it's a little above my head still, then the last option, if you will, that's left for us is to see that in our next life we do not have to be reborn in a bad state.
this one though, Carson. But in our tabaka. Only consider one you get tunipa, cutting the Zimmer machine, Yansel Givan Junju, Deli Chinny Congo Ponges. Tangaram Somal Tare any to some huge down the rives. Meeting of the consider one you some, children around your passion. Twin union nearby, children 20 town. And 20 that she 20 non dream that he McGuish and 20 sound on the wrong 20. But then the come dealer and some around to children. I was imagine young age of one that they sona cover pen at this one.
So I just basically highlighted the three types of essence that each of us could fulfill, because we all have equal access to all these different levels of essence that we could fulfill in our life, depending upon our own, spiritual aptitude and capacities and so on. So now by realizing that, these are the different types of spiritual essence that we could accomplish. Now, when is the time to do that? If that's the question we, pose to ourselves, well, this is the best time. As I started it off by saying that we need to appreciate the fully endowed human form, the precious human life that we have, And so this is the best time for us to strive for any types of or levels of essence that I laid out briefly, before. And to substantiate this point, I want to quote great Indian master Acharya Chandrakirti's, from his supplement to the Middle Way or Madhyamik Avatar, a wonderful text. And as Geshe quoted the lines from his memory, so basically, great Chandrakirti is telling us that this is the time that we have freedoms at our disposal. Especially as we might in today's modern language call the freedom of religion, right? We have the freedom to follow any religion or spirituality. So we need to acknowledge that. Not only that we have the freedom to cultivate any kind of spirituality, but we also have favorable conditions to do that. And often in the Buddhist literatures, we talk about what we call external favorable conditions and internal favorable conditions. Of course, I'm not going to take much time to go into all of those. That would be detouring at this point, I guess. But so we have the favorable conditions to be able to cultivate spirituality. And so right now we are in a wonderful situation to make the right kind of decision and to follow whatever path we decide to follow. Otherwise, once we lose this opportunity, this is like, metaphorically speaking, we are falling into a dungeon, Now this is the hard time to get out of the dungeon because now we are controlled by so many other conditions and factors. We lose so many freedoms that we have now. And so this is basically what the Chandrakirti is telling us. This is the high time for us to make our decision and pursue our spirituality. Once we lose this, once we are controlled by many other conditions and factors, then it would be really hard to follow spirituality.
Nyawa Tangita Tundu. This is what those long Chani and any pe Rantopji Garsita, Ramayama, Chudra Ramayama, Dungi Nani, Dungi Yaman the Chur. And the church drops on a time ever share. That she tuned Nanti Tamalatap, Yama. So the lady, Deli Sheni Kangle Hon just any, that round the Jane Karasota. And the Tabas should be Compatoya done, me, then be Compatoya, any types yet, Yansa Chani coverage come.
So the Chandrakirti tells us that at this time we have all kinds of freedoms at our disposal. We have favorable conditions to be able to make our decision and follow our spiritual path, and whichever spiritual goal we decide to work for. But once we lose this opportunity, then as we said, metaphorically speaking, it is as if we have fallen into a dungeon. The kind of dungeon we talk about here is the dungeons of three unfortunate states of rebirth. So once we are in the dungeons here, then we are tormented by suffering constantly. The suffering is intense. It is, perpetual suffering. And we even won't hear a word of dharma. So being in that situation, then he concludes his stanzas by asking, at that time, who can save me or save us? Who will be able to help us get out of the dungeons? Maybe it's going to be too late, So the way, the tone of his language says that once we fall into the dungeons, then who can save us? Who can get us out of that situation? So that at least indicates the great difficulty to get out of such predicaments or such difficult situation. Maybe it's not impossible at all, but it is really going to be very difficult. Well, as we contemplate all these situations, it is possible that somebody might think this way, or one of us might think this way, that well, then what's the point of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha as objects of refuge? So can't they do something here? So then why do they exist? Well, what's the point of having them? If they can't protect me? So if we entertain that kind of a doubt, or we speculate that, okay, so what's the point of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha? If they can't save me, then what's the use of them? Well, Shakyamuni Buddha himself made it very clear about what Buddhas can do and cannot do for sentient beings. In a sutra, and this is a very famous quote, and Geshe quoted the whole lines. So basically, Buddha said, Buddhas, enlightened beings, cannot wash sentient beings' delusions and negativities with some kind of ablution or water. Okay, so that's not a possibility. Okay, so there's no way to wash, away all our delusions and negativities. Then he also said, Buddhas cannot remove the suffering of sentient beings with their hands. They cannot pull us literally out of suffering, as if they can say, okay, grab my hand and I'm going to just take you out of suffering. That's not possible. Buddhas also made it very clear that they cannot transfer their love, compassion, wisdom, realizations into our minds. They cannot make a gift. They say, okay, all right, I have all these enlightened qualities and I'll just transfer it to you, into your bank account. No, that doesn't work. Well, Buddha didn't send the bank account, but to get the message again. And so what can they do? So Buddha said, the Buddhas can only reveal the truths or the realities as they are. And so then when the sentient beings see the truth, and then the sentient beings have to follow the truth. In other words, we as individuals need to engage in the practices of abandoning negativities and delusions and cultivating positive actions. So if we as individuals decide not to do that, okay, I'm not going to do the practice, but I still want Buddhas and the Dharma and the Buddha to save me, well, that's not going to work. Okay, so that's just an illusion, it's a fantasy. Okay, so as we talk about taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, what that refuge involves is also our commitment to follow the precepts of the Buddha, which involves our own individual practice.
단 누구시니 저 감각 고드 그랬어. 배나 셔준 지컬 아니 사지 좀 된데 셉템버 아니 최 건조데 셉 뭐에 차고요. 진짜 최 건조데 랑 냠스랑 줄이 셉에 셰네 디 당원에 랑 샴킨데 최 건조 차고 최 건조데 랑 줄이 셰네 아니 딱 사람 냠도 또보다 랑 줄이 셉에 셰네 디 dobjeni rang khwadeng sung dung he da tabat dang ji ko ta che go res kan go kang ban du go bin ta ka sa tu ga res na chue number ta ba ji she ba she de rang nyam sun la ne nyam to rang ji le she ba she di wang ke te tabat dang ji ko ta go res ta ka ti nga ba de shang du ni she kang ga du ko bin na ti chang go was.
Of course, there is this whole exposition on the practice of refuge in the Buddhist literatures. But if you try to kind of derive essence out of that whole literature, what does refuge practice mean and involve? Of course, we have to identify the three objects of refuge. So we have the jewel of Buddha, the jewel of Dharma or spirituality, and the jewel of Sangha or spiritual community. So these are the objects of refuge in whom we take refuge. Okay. And so our attitudes and approach towards them as we take refuge is we see Buddha as a teacher, okay, the one who teaches us about spirituality, about paths, about spiritual development. but that which actually, literally protects us, saves us from suffering, predicaments, and problems is the dharma, is the spirituality. Okay? So dharma in that sense is the actual refuge, actual meaning that literally liberates us from the state of suffering, protects us, saves us. It's not so much the Buddha. Buddha is the teacher who shows us dharma. Okay? But dharma is what really saves us. So how would it save us? Is when we cultivate dharma within our own state of mind. That's what we call internalized dharma, actualized dharma. Okay. So dharma is a concept that incorporates a lot of spiritual realizations. So in the Buddhist literature, when we study about the structure of the path, the structure of the paths and the spiritual levels or the grounds of bodhisattvas, all of these constitute dharma. So basically, we as practitioners need to cultivate dharma within our mind, internalize it, actualize it. So when we do that, then dharma really liberates us from suffering. We can find nirvana or liberation from suffering. We can find complete enlightened state, getting rid of all the mental obscurations, both delusions and obscuration to omniscient state. Okay. So this is very important for us to understand, how the three jewels can save us or protect us. And then, of course, the spiritual communities members are our spiritual friends, okay, who support us, in our practice. No. Now, the Sangha in this case is the monastic, the members. Okay, the spiritual community, meaning the monks and nuns. These are our spiritual friends or the helpers.
So that church dharma said, "Kung we sing this." Then we imagine that Doctor Kick something that Karina something, some Germany. Church said, "Karina, long to go chuni, long to talk with Danitos." Long chue the top way Chinese, that long chue to some shiny, Toby Tamaran the shave. So that long chue that Toby chue, Toby Tembate, and that's do you have a shabala, that never the long table. So that is long tempatan, Toby Tempers, that long there, long denizens. No, long denizens. And then Toby Tempers long have a son doing the door. No, that's such as a long at the Mamboy or what? No.
So when we study dharma, we have to understand that it is a very vast and profound concept. Now, it doesn't refer to a single phenomenon or reality. It is very vast, that it consists of many dimensions, if you will, and that's very important to be, acknowledged. As it is stated elsewhere, that when we talk about dharma or spirituality, chi in Tibetan, it at least consists of two important dimensions. One is what we call the scriptural dimension of dharma, and the other is the realization dimension of dharma. Okay, so dharma consists of two facets, two dimensions here. So what is in this scriptural dimension, if you ask? Well, what is really there is, what we call all the contents of the three baskets of teachings, what we call tripitakas. Okay, the basket of discourse, the basket of the ethics, and the basket of knowledge. So what is contained in the tripitakas or three baskets constitute what we call the scriptural dimension of dharma. So we need to study tripitakas or three baskets of teaching. We need to contemplate the meanings of these things, and through these processes, right, we are able to actualize and internalize dharma within our own mind. That's where the realization dimensions of the dharma come about. It's through study, contemplation, and meditation we need to experience or actualize the realization dimension of dharma. And so what is in the realization dimension of dharma, you ask? So basically all the spiritual paths that we talk about. For example, often we talk about three higher trainings: training in higher ethics, training in higher concentration, training in higher wisdom. These are all part of the realization dimension of dharma. Or, to put it in a different way, we often talk about the five spiritual paths. right? From the path of accumulation to the path of no more learning. Yeah, that's my first footnote there. Then we have the 10 spiritual grounds, okay? The 10 spiritual levels of the bodhisattvas. All of these are realization dimension of dharma. So we could only actualize them, experience them through the study, contemplation, and meditation of the 3 baskets of teachings. So now you might perhaps wonder, like, okay, now do the things that I practice or I study, such as Lamrim teachings or the commitment practices that I do every day, do they belong to any of the Tripitikas, the basket of teaching, or am I doing something outside this? Well, we must understand that all the things we practice, our prayers, our commitments, and the things we study, Lamrim, stages of the path, all of these belong to the Tripitikas or 3 baskets of teaching. As a matter of fact, everything Buddha taught, we call sutras. Everything that Indian commentators, wrote about Buddha's teachings called shastras, commentary treatises. All of these sutras and shastras, or the Buddha's discourses and commentary treatises, all of these belong to the 3 baskets of teachings.
사탈람 다 근데 이내다 간시 이 이제부터 장주 샘 대가나 이제 중 삼바더니 또 참말로 그 사바선이난 되고 그래서 람사바선이난 되고 그래서
And some of the core principles of the essence of Buddha Dharma that we often talk about. For example, the 3 principal paths. Renunciation or aversion to miseries in samsara, we call Nyejung in Tibetan, and bodhicitta, or the altruistic mind of enlightenment, bodhisattva's attitude, which basically arises from great compassion or mahakaruna and great love, mahametri, all of this, and also the wisdom gone beyond, the wisdom realizing emptiness as it is, and also all of these things, I should say, belong to the baskets of teachings. And also the other kinds of meditation we do. We could be meditating on a Sutrayana path, or we could be meditating on a tantric path, but all of this should be understood as falling within the baskets of teachings.
다양한 사바적 기금을 람라바 숨세 가르쳐는 대양도 계고 라바 주름질 라바 라바 땡이질 라바 라바 계르질 라바 노신데.
So those paths, 3 principal paths I just mentioned, they are inclusive within, or they could be included within the 3 higher trainings. Okay, and so 3 higher trainings are, especially more for the sake of new students, training in high ethics, training in higher concentration, and training in higher wisdom.
다 라바 주름질 라바 나네, 아니 다 전바이나. 미게 접고 추름시 다 라도 중앙에 들리 있는다 아니 미게 접고 추름니 라도 중에 담바다 던지시 다이 침바이나 아니 전교세비 담바다 마치 담발랑이네 던지 강가 추름 숭에도 숭제도 설명하게 그랬어.
So what is involved in a very kind of simple sense, if you're wondering, okay, what is involved in training in higher ethics or training in higher morality, if you will, ethical discipline? In the case of what we call lay practitioners, lay meaning those who have not taken any monastic ordinations, so basically who are not monks and nuns, okay, but who could be practicing Dharma, the basic fundamental ethics that we have to keep is the ethics of abandoning 10 negative actions of body, speech, and mind. So that's basic ethics. While in addition to that, we might have taken or received bodhisattva ethics, okay. and we might have received Vajrayana ethics or the tantric ethics. So even as lay practitioners, we have all these different levels of ethics that we need to keep, which basically constitute our, training in higher ethics. Now, if somebody has taken monastic ordination, then in addition to the ethics of abandoning 10 negativities or body, speech, and mind, has got all the monastic vows, his ethics, plus may have taken bodhisattva vows, plus might have taken tantric vows. So all of these are part and parcel of training in higher ethics. With regard to the basic fundamental ethics of abandoning 10 negative actions, body, speech, mind, I feel that this is is in some sense kind of a universal ethics. It should apply to one and all, regardless of whether one considers oneself as a Buddhist or not. Doesn't matter. tala shandul hajating ever sungu garis conjusana shandu majena shandu the mena ranjil mena number chagamar just conjus shandu the kelani tashabs robina tashandul hajating ever sungu garis muge chibungu churung tala yinda shanjus be damba the haj damba mena never sungu garis. So in the case of lay Buddhist practitioners, you see, you have to keep the basic ethics of abandoning 10 negative actions of body, speech, and mind. And additionally, you have to keep the precepts of having gone for refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Okay? But if we have not taken those precepts and don't keep them, then in the first place, we cannot consider ourselves as a Buddhist practitioners. Now, if somebody is wondering here, if I'm not Buddhist, so why do I really need to keep the ethics of 10, abandoning 10 negativities of body, speech, and mind? That seems to be a Buddhist thing. What has its relevance to me? When we think in terms of the ethics that we decide to keep, maybe there are two types of ethics. Certain ethics are due to what we might call the rules and regulations, if you will, to use modern terms, laid out by spiritual masters. Okay? But there are certain ethics which has nothing to do perhaps with the spiritual teachers or a master, but it's because of the law of nature. Due to law of nature, if you do certain action, those actions will have consequences. So in Buddhism, we have many different categories of ethics, of the vows and commitments. Once individuals decide to, take those vows and commitments, and then if we transgress them, then we are creating negativities. Now these negativities are due to breaking, the rules and regulations we said we will keep, and the rules and regulations that Buddha has laid out for us. Okay. But then there's other kinds of ethics, as I said, which may have nothing to do with a particular teacher, such as a Buddha, but it is because of the law of nature. So the 10 actions of body, speech, and mind, negativities that we talk about, these are, actions, something related with the laws of nature. So in Buddhism, even lay practitioners could decide to take different types of ethics. Okay, that they might decide to take what is called the upasaka or upasika vows, or in other words, the lay person's vows of the ethics. Okay? Or that they might decide to do one day Mahayana precepts of the vows. So for that one day at least, one has to keep the vows intact, otherwise transgressing them would be creating negativities, which would be breaking the rules laid out by Buddha. So as I'm kind of highlighting many different aspects of the Dharma here, this should give you a sense that those of us who take interest in cultivating spirituality, it's very important for us to study and know all these different aspects of Dharma. Because when we say that I'm going to practice Dharma, right? So practicing involves knowledge and understanding. We also need to be aware of the fact that we could be studying Buddha Dharma and we think that we are practicing Dharma, but if we don't understand what is and is not involved in what spirituality is, what we study and what we practice may not necessarily become Dharma. So, to be more specific, what am I talking about here? That you think that you are studying Dharma, and then you think that you are practicing Dharma, but in reality, what you practice may not become Dharma. What am I talking about here? Here, I'm really try to pinpoint the essentiality and significance of cultivating spiritual motivations. Okay, motivations play essential roles here. Let's assume that somebody is reciting 21 tala prayers. Okay, because 21 talas are enlightened beings, and then he says, okay, I want to recite these prayers and I want to do this so that then I have successes in all the worldly matters that I'm involved in. That I become rich, I become famous, whatever. So by reciting 21 tala prayers, which is the Dharma, but because of the, what we call inappropriate motivation, what one practices does not even constitute Dharma. Okay? So somebody seems like practicing Dharma, but the motivation is so ulterior and gone astray in sort of worldly sense that what he or she practices does not, in reality, becomes Dharma practice. You see? So that's the example I just gave. Reciting 21 tala prayers, which are very profound, but with the ulterior motive of becoming rich and famous and brave and whatever, then, it just doesn't work here. Or there could be another practitioner, who is very, who thinks that, okay, I do not want to be reborn in a bad migration in my next life. Okay, that means I want to be free from bad state of rebirth. So with that as a motivation, then he or she practices Dharma. This could be the same one. Then at least what he or she is doing constitute Dharma practice.
Dharma does works in there. I do
not mean to undermine the power of reciting 21 tara prayers and mantras, in terms of finding successes, worldly successes in this lifetime. While that could work. Okay, what I'm saying is, with the worldly attitudes and motivation, when we do such practice, our practice does not constitute Dharma practice. That's my point. I don't mean that if you recite those things, you will not succeed in what you do. You might as well succeed.
Okay.
Now let's think of another person, who wants to be free from samsara for good. Okay, and then recite the 21 tala prayers and the mantras, all that. So what he or she practices, yes, it constitutes real dharma practice, which will lead him or her to nirvana, of course, but the practice does not become a cause for the person to become an enlightened being, because the goal that he or she has set is not enlightenment, is the nirvana, liberation from samsara. Because here, even though this motivation is higher than the other kind of motivation, seeking nirvana, but this still involves what we call this selfishness, motive, that I want to be free from samsara. Okay, and so therefore, with this kind of attitude and motivation, one cannot achieve enlightened state.
Hindu Chevinanda, Chubapuinanda, Karishavina, Nindi Shiade, Sinjatan, Sanji Komoto, Chidu Yinstami, that's not Ricky Tony, Puinta, Munipin Sanji Komoto, Jundu.
Now let's say that another person, aspires to be a Buddha, enlightened being, for the benefit of all other sentient beings. And with that as a motivation, he or she makes offerings, recites some mantras, do some prayers, whatever. So all of these things that he or she does, activities or practices, these practices become causes for the person to reach complete enlightened state.
That then gets at it, and it's touching by Karis Sanji Kompa Maso Padula and Ta Segi Amare.
So when we accumulate merit, from our actions due to altruistic motivation, and then also especially when we do altruistic dedication, then our merit, it becomes inexhaustible in the sense that until we reach complete enlightened state, those merits cannot be destroyed. They do not go waste. In some strange but they cannot get destroyed by other factors.
Then the has Kima marriage, Dolly, the song was. Get a Janso can Kutik Janso Mazep, 10 season. Janso Kevan and Kutik Tibet, the Janso and Chit and Jenny. Go and the Janso Mazep by the co Chuti, that's what the Janso and Jevington, Zoy Mavres.
No. So what I just said is not something, again, I made it up right here on the spot, but it's something what Buddha himself said in a sutra, and Geshe quoted the lines from his memory, where Buddha gives this metaphor of, if we put a drop of water into the water of oceans, because that drop of water gets mixed with the waters in the ocean, so long as the waters in the ocean exist, that drop of water will exist.
That thing now get the Paris, they yin, Shanju Yungu gets a young, Shanju Masopa the Demesis. Get a you can take in the Zobi Shanju the Muerne, Shabby in any Ran Shanju Masopa to get at the joy mavers.
In the same way, Buddha said, whatever merit, big or small, that we dedicate altruistically, that merit will remain until we reach complete enlightened state. It cannot be exhausted, destroyed, go waste, how to say, until we reach enlightened state.
And we get a person soon, same soon. I think Karasagota, Gomina, that thing by Yabusheta, same Yabusun. Tama Delta, never don't why I would never shake.
So, all of us, as individuals who are interested in spirituality and dharma practice, at the beginning of any action we undertake, whether it's a spiritual practice or an action, we should check with our motivation and cultivate, appropriate motivation before we do an action. So then once we engage in the action or the practice, we should be mindful of our actions, what we are doing. Okay? And to do it with attention and focus. Do it well. And then at the end, we should altruistically dedicate our merit, conclude our action or the practice. Yes, so these things are very important, for all of us. We start off with the proper motivation, then the actual action or the practice. We conclude it with altruistic dedication. As great Indian Master Arya Nagarjuna has said elsewhere in Geshe quoted the lines that altruistic dedication metaphorically is like, we have the rein of a horse rider got a rein in hand, right? So you can direct the horse wherever it goes. Maybe today is the steering wheel, So that's what it is. The altruistic dedication is the steering wheel. Whichever direction you want to go, that's what it does, So that's why it's very important. And now I'm going to go back to the text called Miscellaneous Collection of Kadampa Geshe's Advices, and I'll continue from where we left off last time.
The third testing this. Tato rang sena sharasis joji. Kadingama chin sir the kechamados. Tato rang semla sharasis. That rang say 2000 rang sem the sungres. Sung the sharasis that Geshes. That Geshes gave a shoulder, McGee shoulder, courage, rang semte, and a giddy carreg shawl, Dogu made Takcheshes.
Great Indian Master Adish said that we should always watch our mind, or the Tibetan word chara means spy on our own way of thinking and mind. Because if we don't watch our mind, then we wouldn't know whether our mind is in a positive state or in a negative state and what it is really thinking about. So it's very important for us to look at our own mind, spy in our mind, and see whether our mind is following something positive or is following something negative. In the context of meditational practice, especially when we talk about cultivating calm abiding or shamatha or mental quiescence, we talk about the importance of spying on our mind, in the sense that we use introspection to look at our mind and see whether our mind is really focused on object or the subject of meditation, or whether it is wandering elsewhere, whether it got distracted. Because in our meditation, we need to worry about two things. Number one, whether laxity pops up in our mind, or whether the excitement is disturbing our meditation. So to be able to understand whether laxity or excitement is disrupting our meditation, we need to spy on our own mind, and we use introspection, to look at our mind. Okay, and so in the same way, in our everyday life, it's very important for us to introspect our own way of thinking and find out whether our mind is in a positive state or is it in a negative state. And here, often, we can say we should be mindful of what we are doing, or we should introspect our mind, or we should look at our mind. All of this, we are basically talking about the same thing. Sometimes maybe some people get idea like, we should lead a mindful life or cultivate mindfulness. They can tend to think like, okay, mindful means, I need to bring to my mind whatever I have done, what did I eat? What am, all kind of sort of things. We are not talking being mindful in those sense, what I ate or didn't eat or whatever, all the stuff.
That's same Sharashini. Give me show Harashin to ten Sharashini. The Tagari Jaji Amaras. Me give you show the shin duna, me give you send me give you show the shini, me give you shower, that me give you Lelin Juduna, that telling about the Chadum Shegula. And in Java Sheni. And Java Tahuta, and the Shinchi Meji can be done center. That relationship. And I gave a shoulder chin Yamashan Duna until it gives you a Gawagom, no single.
So we introspect our own mind or way of thinking, or we spy on our mind in everyday life, and if we find that our mind is in a negative state, or it follows negativities, then we need to confess our negative actions, our negativities. And this is where we use what is known as 4 opponent forces or 4 powerful antidotes, such as we really need to generate strong regret or contrition for the negativities that we have done or we are getting involved in. And we also need to commit ourselves not to repeat them again, and all of those, you see. So it's through the 4 powerful antidotes or application of the 4 opponent forces rather that we try to purify our negativities. But once we introspect our mind and we see that our mind is in a positive state, it is really doing positive, well, in that case, we need to rejoice in our own positive actions. We should feel happy about, generate sense of joy and delight in the positive, state of mind that we have.
Rang la rang du ma jis. Rang rang du cham ma jis. Ta rang rang du matong sing ta. Rang rang du matong. Ane rang rang du matong sing ka sa. Rang ke migi le du sa be na. Ane rang le pe rang du tam son. Chang ma.
And the next one, that Adish talks about is that one must not. I'm literally translating. It's like one must not indulge in, self-torture. Or in other words, don't bring more troubles to oneself. That's what it is. How could that be, if you're wondering? So basically, if we are not mindful of our actions, we could be involved in many negativities. So doing a lot of negativities is, as a matter of fact, bringing a lot of more troubles and suffering to ourselves. So this is what, what we meant by indulging in self-torturing actions.
Rang laying up a sabi in a legend, Namit rank tolso, Mingur was setsa, lace up out there, Sanki the Ranshi, Minjuga, legend Namit rank tom here, Rang Randu Majikana.
So this has something to do with the law of actions. When we perform certain actions, in this case negativities, we are the agents of karmic actions. And the karmic actions that we perform will only bring their results to ourselves. Because after all, we are responsible for our own actions. Okay? So if we do more of the negativities, then we will have more suffering and more problems.
Oh, yeah. Rang Malus. Rang Malus Kanan was. So Rang Migi Le Kaniki Sabi in the Rang Fluver. Rang Mabasa, Tangita Randu, Rang Dukmaton Center, Taki Manager, Rang Malus. Me Ginda Rang Gokotana. I think Gokotan say Hako Yorba. So Rang Gokotan Hako Yamai. Sally Howard.
So then Adisha uses another expression which I think is very intimately connected with what I just explained, self-torture. He used the word self-deception. Don't deceive yourself. So basically again, the idea is we must not get involved in negative actions because that is like cheating ourselves. The thing to remember about deception is that if somebody is deceiving us, maybe we are very intelligent enough to figure it out. Yeah, somebody is playing trick on me or whatever. But once we get involved in self-deception, that's really harder to realize because we don't realize how we are cheating ourselves. That's much harder to realize. So getting involved in destructive actions and negativities also involves self-deception.
They use a lot of lama mahlus. That is Ganga, the Yajuni, Makalindenda, lot of lama mahlus, ranke, dujuk, lata, and then ranke, and lama, the ram lam tunke, and he is Maris.
All of these things Adisha is telling us is his responses or answers to the questions being asked by some of his great disciples. And here Adisha tells us that we must not deceive our spiritual gurus or the spiritual teachers and meditational deities.
One of the issues is that Tantric sungis, one Tantric sungis, Gangaji Shagis, he was that Jura Dugins, and number of Dugins, that there is in the Kilang. That the Majevajit, the rank one is Kilang, Tantric Masuna, Flata Lamanica Flowing.
So if you're wondering how could we cheat or deceive deities or meditational deities here, well, this is where it is like, we go and receive all kinds of tantric empowerments or initiations. So basically, we got introduced ourselves to the deities, and then we told them that, what, I really want to cultivate, you as my meditational deities, and I'm going to do that really well. I'm going to keep all the commitments intact. But having met those commitments, now if we don't keep our commitments, right, then we are cheating the deities.
And so in the country, so the shabby and any that's not the lemon doing and the language was just the rank muscle with the 7 to was.
Now, the cheating the deities doesn't necessarily have to get involved in some tantric empowerments or initiations. Even going back with taking refuge, right? When we take refuge, we do that in the presence of all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and deities, and all the realized beings. So we said, okay, I'm going to go for refuge in all of you, then I'm going to keep the precepts. So having said that, if we now don't keep our precepts, then we are basically cheating, all of them, which include the deities.
Rampung Yimpung Magis, Rank Ramampu, Rank Yemampu, Punishu Jumta, and McGill Lele Georgia Marescano. That Ranki McGill Lele McGill Lele Sheni, Yem McGill Lele, Nyandu Tini, that is your Rampung Yimpung Magis.
And Adisha goes on to tell us that we must not indulge in negativities ourselves. We must not encourage others to participate in. Not only that we do negativities, but then we somehow encourage and invite and inspire others to join us and do the negativities. So don't do those things, because ultimately then we are being destructive of both self and others.
That's in the Shawa Nyamchan, Yamber Shaju, and the Yampais. Send the Shaya Yang to Dungis of Maris. Can Yampina call Yamjit Yambresta? Canando, that they can't. They can't see Yamers Garada. Send the Shawa Nyamcha, Yamber Shajuti, the Yampais. Send the Shagala Chadina, Kari Yamjit Yambais on Karis, and send the Shagala Chana, and they Chabe wants that Korean dam losing my trigger.
No. And then Adisha goes on to say that we must not be too much concerned with the deterioration or the decline of worldly activities, because after all, eventually they'll come to an end. Nothing really stays as it is forever, so they will eventually fall apart. So why worry too about the things? Ultimately, anyway, that's their nature. So the point here that's being made is, if we get too much attached to worldly activities, and grasp about them, then we end up creating a lot of negativities which bind us within samsara. Then we are not able to get out of samsara. So it's better for us to let go our attachment and grasping at worldly activities. So worldly activities are something that will fall apart eventually. So I mean, why worry too much about that? Trying to keep them, going. Anyway, they will eventually fall apart.
Need to be.
Yeah. And in another sense, like from a spiritual perspective, these are the things we need. We need to destroy in some sense. We need to destroy means abandon the worldly activities. But at the same time, I must caution you. This does not necessarily mean that you will just make up your mind and tomorrow you kind of drop your jobs and everything else. And but don't do that. Don't.
You have to pay it down your covers. So every Chagin maybe turn it later to do your was for Chagin average call.
Doing one's job does not necessarily mean that one is involved in a worldly activity. What is really important for us to know is our attachment to the things we do. Okay, so we could do our job, without attachment or with less attachment, whatever the case may be. Okay, so when we say that we need to abandon worldly activities, do not come to the conclusion that that tomorrow everybody will stop working and that. What is really working with our attachment towards the things we do.
And it's talk over my time, some point they think and they should do it. And then Yaboyama, do your marvels. That yin at the pan, Charo Shabin, and it Gadur was going to 10 race can. Cindy Shagat and Rang Yambi in a court, Ginda me, Gindel Tony, never done share any pay, so in it and that reality. Majuma in the Congress Jamaris. You mean no question if I'm ever this.
So worldly activities are, something that we need to abandon. So on their own accord, somehow they fall apart. So why worry too much about them? Because after all, that's what we wanted. Of course, from a spiritual perspective. And the example given to illustrate the point here is like, we need to, we need to clean our environment, and there is filthy stuff there. Okay, and so what's the point of worrying about it, getting attached to it? If somebody offers a help, say, okay, I'll help you to clean another place, so we should be all the more happy. In the same way, if the worldly activities that we need to abandon on their own accord, they fall apart, they, get out of existence, whatever the case may be, so be it. That's what we want.
That Nagani, same day, Shagala Chabi, Ane, Chabalaso, Ane, not only about the Samalta, Karin, Pe, Shanjan, Yamasovic in a pound, country check.
And Adisha tells us that we need to apply every antidote we can find to counteract any kind of deluded conceptions which arise in our mind. Okay, be it attachment or anger or whatever the case may be. You see, whatever antidote we can find, we should apply to counteract them, and we should do that now rather than procrastinating. Like I'll do it later. Just do it immediately.
That the same rank to the rank sense of the
So one of the key points that Adish has made is that we should always guard our mind. We should always watch our mind.
So we have
to make every effort that our mind does not follow the wrong direction or the negativity, but rather it always stays in a positive state and follows the positive actions. So that we need to make efforts to discipline our mind or to train our mind in that way. Yes. As great Kadampa Geshe Ben Kunjin has said in a very metaphorical sense, that he said, I always stand at the mouth of the cave of my delusions with a weapon or a spear of antidote in my hand. Okay, and so when he gets tough, I get tough. When he relaxes, I relax.
That's the same.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that 때는 다가 야기 생각한 정말 지라고 정스 생각한 저 어리다 긴다 교육에 말고 전주 교육에도
되시네.
뭐이 당아주 들은 때 이 건축기 좋아지죠. 내가 뭐
여러 조정에 디신을 교하는 거. 근데 뭐하든 되나로 하게. 이슈도 개인이
어려서도 알림
약해서는 콘슬라운드 오로 파래.
알림 호하신다. 아니 가라서 처음으로 최진심이 기고 잡으라 되니 산지 때문에 버티다 저기서 내가 봤죠. 내가 좀 된지 저 얘기는 없죠. 된지 쉐부 담아서 저거에 개비 때문에 도지긴다 때문에 들어오는 것 같아. 아니 최종게 아니 저 보면 이제 준비 시작하는 있었던 거 봤다. 이게 이제 감도 되게도 민티비 구소타다 괜히 tunjil sutta bemil hundu
we'll stop there today, and let's dedicate our collective merit for the flourishing of dharma, the source of benefits and happiness throughout the universe. May His Holiness the Dalai Lama and all other great spiritual masters live long and be successful in fulfilling their visions benefiting sentient beings. May spiritual communities throughout the world and spiritual practitioners from all traditions remain healthy, harmonious, and be successful in fulfilling their spiritual aspirations. May this and other world environments be free of all kinds of unwanted pains and problems, and beings find peace, happiness, prosperity, and spirituality. In short, we dedicate our marriage for all kind mother sentient beings to be free from the fears and dangers of two types of mental obscuration, and may we all reach complete enlightened state quickly. As some of you already know, that last Wednesday was Geshe-la's birthday, and we decided to wait till Sunday so that most of the students are here so that we can celebrate his birthday in a very simple way. And so Geshe said that he know already. I'm not destroying any surprise here.
This morning.
That we got a big cake. And so Geshe said, after we sing and wish Geshe long life and happy birthday, then everybody's invited to the other side of the building in the kitchen or the living room, to enjoy the cake. Okay, and he says there's no need for people to come up and get a blessing from him. He said, he has given the teaching and do the practice, and that's the real blessing. Okay, and having said that, we are going to recite Geshe long life prayer first in Tibetan and then in English. It's a choice. So if you want to follow the Tibetan phonetic, it's on page 4. The page has no numbers, but it's the page 4. Chom de che me la be la nam ye me jo jo de be ye den de zu long do da man je je de ye je no yo me zhe tian ren jian kan zang ye 写住言子的表子的个别，从没给别写来所问的，马的梦别明白归色，罗的朝给那外让多年。 雄罗边明大家写边念，那边考的写不下不的说，的我来写不写也马的呗，莫个马如流给着那。 多爱萨巴的家别光巴心，的在些年前不下巴的说，年年明天说也当着如。 朗多学我学别念着，面色松恩多别娘们当着，偏的别那亲切下巴的说。 现在娘们我啦罗别娘们当着，三夜的着蓝的着山，南着人家两多天在北。 周边的边前不下巴的说，张扬些路我啦边前把一，东啊萨巴就张个人路说，那从周边给我用上边。 都在前不下巴的说，到那给别些也上说了，罗巴拉古别给年归谢谢。 现对接现对别见那个， lo me cho zo de be che la da ta so se che me be ke be de je de zhong jo le de bu zo ge me de la yo do do ro. Now we'll do in English on page 5. A mere display of the names of major and minor signs, along with the 3 sublime secrets of innumerable Buddhas, grants the glory of longevity. May the special enlightened deities of immortality grant today's supreme and common glory and qualities. Pray the unincomparable spiritual guide, who mounts the wish-fulfilling gem of the sublime dharma of scriptures and realization, on top of a victory banner of teaching and practice, upon the roof of a jewel house of steadfast morality. May you live long as a luminous body, a friend that helps the lotus bloom with 100 petals of scriptural tradition, while eliminating completely the darkness of ignorance. You further the radiance of excellent intelligence. May you live long as a great spiritual guide, who teaches the vital points of Sutra and Tantra according to Buddha's intention, for people who are unruly and hard to tame, who have not been subdued by other Tathagatas. May you live long as a purveyor of benefits and happiness, for beings who are tormented everywhere by unbearable pain, due to engaging in negative karmic actions, shrouded in darkness of the 5 degenerations. May you live long as a great captain of the sea, for miserable beings who have fallen into the ocean of samsara. May you guide them to the jewel island of complete liberation in your ship of the vast and profound Mahayana path. May you live long as a great spiritual guide, who suitably teaches a variety of fortunate disciples the essence of Tsongkhapa's vast and profound tradition of excellence, which originated from the sweet oral transmission of Manjushri. In short, may the 3 secrets of the Guru be completely free of harmful agents and obstacles. May favorable conditions be effortlessly and spontaneously fulfilled, exactly in accordance with your wishes. By the blessings of the 3 infallible jewels, by the power of our single-pointed virtuous prayers, may the intended results spontaneously quickly arise from their causes without obstacles, in accordance with dependent arising. Thank you very much. And I guess people must be hiding behind that door, are they?
Yes, we are.
Okay, I think you can come out. Let me give this card to Kishla. On behalf of GSTDL.
Yeah, okay.
Touch him.
Yeah, listen to this.
Happy birthday, Tashidra. We wish you health, happiness, and very long life. Your loving students, Tenzin Dorjee. And I think here in Tibetan, I think I'm guessing Geshe Tsultim must bring it. So that's the Tibetan translation of the English. And then there is the treadmill. So I don't know what it is communicating that Geshe should be.
No, we are giving it.
You're giving one? Oh, then definitely he has to run on it, I think. Is it a... Is it...
Yeah, always say, okay. Oh, I see. Thank you. Maybe this one maybe more than 100, I think. you. Thank you.
We sing happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, okay, very good.
Okay.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Geshe. Happy birthday to you. And many more.
Listen, I think it's a Western style, this candles blow. We think it's don't blow. This because we need lights always. We need. Okay? It's stay like this. Stay like this. Yes.
The happy birthday and long life Geshe. That's
Yeah.
what's on the cake.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
it's a very sumptuous
Thank you.
cake.
I think really you did my long life prayer and everything. So I think that's thank you very much. And I think we are together. You are a good student. Myself try to make good teacher for you. So that's why I think we are all together try to make pure dharma action. That's more important thing really it is. So we often to the all with the Dharma Sangha, especially also often to the His Holiness Dalai Lama and everything masters. Okay? Thank you very much.
Okay, you get this one?
And this one, I'll forget again. You have to begin.
Your weapon's working.
Okay. Thank you.
So everybody is welcome to the other side, to enjoy the cake. We will cut a little piece and bring to Geshe and another for Geshe Pegi, and then it's all yours.
Long life prayer, please return to the plaque. Thank you very much. So we can have them for next
Just like that.